All right, get ready, because today we're going to be looking into something pretty big. It has the potential to totally change how we invent and share ideas. We're talking about the Open Innovation Engine, the OIE. We've got two white papers here by Carlos Villamar. He's an expert in intellectual property, and honestly, his vision for this is ambitious. He's got this whole plan to use blockchain, AI, and this concept called protected open source to basically revolutionize how we innovate.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things that really struck me when I was reading through this was he doesn't just lay out some theoretical framework. He really gets into the frustrations that inventors and investors face today with the current system.
Exactly. Right from the start, he's talking about how difficult the current system is, like how expensive and difficult it is to get a patent, and then you got to connect with investors. And even if you do all that and get your invention out there, there's no guarantee it's going to be successful.
And then from the investor's side of things, trying to identify promising inventions and then figure out, okay, what's the potential return on investment here? It can feel like you're just taking a shot in the dark. It often feels like the system is rigged in favor of people with lots of money, you know? And that leaves independent inventors and smaller investors really struggling.
So how does Villamar propose we fix this?
Yeah.
Well, he proposes the OIE. He calls it a neural network for global innovation. Now, that may sound kind of complicated, but when you break it down, the idea is actually pretty simple.
Yeah, it's basically a platform. It's designed to connect innovators all across the world. So that's individuals, startups, even big established companies. And it lets them all work together, collaborate, share ideas, and develop inventions together. If you can picture this vast, interconnected web of minds, all working towards a common goal.
So, okay, that's a cool idea in theory, but what does this neural network actually mean for, the average person? What are the tangible benefits?
Okay, so one of the most interesting aspects of the OIE is that it utilizes blockchain technology, and it does this through a process called tokenization. Intellectual property can be represented as digital tokens, kind of like how stocks represent ownership of a company. So this means you could actually own a piece of a patent.
Wow, so you're saying instead of just buying products or services, I could actually have ownership in the inventions that shape the future. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. It completely changes how we think about investment. You wouldn't have to be some high-powered venture capitalist to support innovation. You could invest in ideas that you believe in, no matter how much money you have.
Okay, so let's dive into this protected open source concept. This is where things start to get really interesting. Villamar thinks that lots of the inventions developed on the OIE should be free to use, at least for non-commercial purposes.
Right. The idea is to encourage people to use these inventions, to make knowledge and innovation accessible to everyone. Like, imagine being able to 3D print tools for your garden, or building educational devices for your kids, all without having to worry about paying licensing fees.
That sounds awesome. But if people can just use these inventions for free, how do the inventors get compensated for their work?
Yeah, that's where the protected part comes in. So non-commercial use is encouraged. But if anyone wants to use an OIE invention to make money, like say to manufacture and sell a product, they'd need to get a license and then share the profits. They share it with everyone who helped develop the invention.
Okay, so it's a win-win. We get access to a ton of open source inventions, and the inventors still get rewarded when their creations are used commercially. It's like a really clever balance between open access and fair compensation.
Exactly. And I think this approach would be especially impactful in areas like sustainability and healthcare, where having open access to these innovations could really speed up progress, and it would benefit a much wider range of people.
Now, Villamar also breaks his vision down into stages based on different investment levels. Starting with just $10 million, he outlines how the OIE could grow from a small platform to this global force for change.
Yeah. I like how he breaks it down into stages. It shows us a practical roadmap for how the OIE could grow. Instead of trying to create this massive, all-encompassing solution right away, he focuses on building a solid foundation, proving the concept with smaller projects, and then scaling up to reach those more ambitious goals.
And as the OIE grows, he sees it changing not just the digital world, but also our physical world. He's got this really cool idea for smart innovation cities. Can you tell us a little bit about what those would look like?
Sure. So imagine cities that are specifically designed to encourage collaboration and speed up the pace of innovation. These cities would act as hubs, bringing together all sorts of different people, engineers, scientists, artists, entrepreneurs, to work on complex challenges and come up with groundbreaking solutions.
That's pretty wild. So instead of innovation being stuck in labs or corporate offices, it's woven into the fabric of our cities. That's a really interesting vision.
And it's not just about, bringing the usual suspects to these innovation hubs. In his second white paper, Villamar really emphasizes inclusivity. He talks about how these smart innovation cities would be places where people from all walks of life can contribute. So not just engineers and scientists, but artists, healers, teachers, social workers. Everyone can bring their unique skills and perspectives to the table.
I like that. It challenges the traditional idea of who an innovator can be. It's like he's saying everyone has the potential to be an innovator.
Yeah, exactly. By breaking down those old silos and valuing diverse viewpoints, the OIE can tap into this much larger pool of creativity. He even talks about how DJs and musicians could help develop new sonic therapies, or how indigenous healers could collaborate with medical researchers to explore traditional healing practices.
Okay, so it's more than just technology. It's about fostering a culture of collaboration
Hmm.
and valuing all kinds of knowledge. But how does this all translate into a sustainable model? How does everyone get rewarded for the contributions?
Well, he proposes this interesting economic model. It's based on equity-based participation. So when members contribute to a project on the OIE, they get ownership stakes in the form of tokens. And these tokens represent their share of the intellectual property rights. And it entitles them to a portion of any future profits generated by that invention.
So it's like a massive collaborative enterprise where everyone has a real stake in the success of the projects they contribute to. That's a pretty strong incentive to work together and make sure these innovations actually succeed.
Exactly. And I think this model could have huge impact on how we tackle some of the biggest problems facing humanity. Villamar specifically mentions things like climate change, access to healthcare, and poverty.
Right. He even outlines how the platform could be used to fund the development of very specific solutions. Renewable energy technologies, personalized medicine, sustainable agriculture practices, new educational models. It seems like the possibilities are endless.
And that protected open source concept we were talking about earlier? It's crucial here. By making these innovations free to use for non-commercial purposes, he's essentially creating this global knowledge commons where anyone can access these inventions, learn from them, and build upon them.
This could be a game changer for developing countries or communities with limited resources. They would have access to cutting-edge tech and innovation without having to worry about those expensive licensing fees.
Right. Imagine a village in a remote area. They could use open source blueprints and 3D printing to build their own sustainable water filtration system. Or think about a group of students in an under-resourced community. They could use the latest educational tools and resources without any financial barriers.
Wow, that's an amazing vision for how open innovation could empower communities and create positive change from the ground up. And it's not just about altruism either. There's still a system in place for generating wealth and funding further innovation.
Absolutely. Striking this balance between open access and commercial licensing. That's how the OIE aims to create this virtuous cycle, where the profits generated from commercial applications then fuel more research, development, and innovation.
It's a really fascinating approach, addressing social good and financial sustainability.
Right.
And this leads into his vision for a post-scarcity society. This isn't just about having enough food and shelter. It's about a world where everyone has access to knowledge, opportunity, and resources.
Yeah. It's a world where we've figured out how to work together to solve problems and create a more equitable and sustainable future for everyone.
I know it sounds kind of idealistic, but when
Yeah.
you really think about how the OIE works, it starts to feel like maybe this could actually work.
Right. It's not just some far-fetched idea. He lays out a very clear framework, a path from where we are now to this very different future.
And he acknowledges how big of a challenge this is. At the end of his second white paper, he issues this call to action. He wants anyone who believes in this vision to join the movement. Yeah, it's a bold statement. He's basically saying we need to rethink how we value knowledge and creativity. And let's actually build a system that supports those values.
I think it comes down to recognizing that our collective intelligence and our capacity for innovation, those are some of the most valuable assets we have as humans. And the OIE is really a framework for harnessing those assets and using them to actually solve problems.
And it's not just about, throwing more tech at a problem. Villamar is clear that he wants to use the OIE to create a more equitable and sustainable world.
Right. That's one of the things that really drew me to this whole concept. It's not about disruption for the sake of disruption. It's about using innovation to get to the root causes of things like inequality, poverty, and environmental destruction.
Yeah, he's saying we can do better. We don't have to settle for the status quo. We can use our creativity and ingenuity to build a better future for everyone.
Exactly. And it's so refreshing to see that driving technological development. I mean, technology on its own is neutral. It's up to us to decide if we're going to use it for good or for bad.
Absolutely. The OIE offers this framework for using innovation in a positive way. It prioritizes collaboration, shared success, and actually tackling the tough challenges we face.
It really does. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Carlos Villamar's vision, it makes you think, what role could you play in all of this?
Right. Maybe you're an inventor with a great idea that could benefit from the OIE's collaborative approach. Or maybe you're an investor looking to support projects that match up with your values.
Or maybe you just want to make the world a better place and are looking for a way to use your skills and talents to do that.
Exactly. Whatever your background is, there's a place for you in this movement. And if Villamar's vision comes to life, even just partially, it could have a massive impact on all of us.
No doubt. It could change how we think about innovation, collaboration, and even how we think about wealth and success.
Definitely. So check out the links to Villamar's white papers in the show notes. Really explore his ideas, dig into the details of the OIE, see if anything resonates with you.
Yeah, because the future of innovation might be much more open and much more collaborative than we ever thought possible.
And who knows, maybe you'll be one of the people shaping that future.